Tyshianna Bankhead. Thanks for dropping by today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You are the executive director for the Faith Coalition for the Common Good here in Springfield.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Well, before we get started, first of all, let me just say thank you for dropping by. Before we get started, are you up for playing a game that I play with my family?
Yes.
Okay. It's called Water Buffalo. Have you heard of this?
I feel like I have.
Okay.
But
It's basically say let's talk about something good going on in your life. Maybe a concern you hold, and then something you're curious about. Basically, just something for us to get the conversational waters going.
And this is a game.
I don't know. It's just it's an exercise. You can't win or lose at it.
Man, okay. Something I am excited about, or what was the first one?
Something that that you feel like is a high water moment in your life, or you're excited about, a concern you hold, and then something you're curious about in our world, or
Okay.
yeah,
As it relates to Faith Coalition or in my life.
whatever,
so I'm
however you
excited
want it.
That this year I'm gonna do a little bit more traveling, but inside of the United States. So I have a trip that's planned for Martha's Vineyard, Oak Bluff. And so I'm excited.
You going with 40? Who is it? 43? Is that Obama? You gonna go?
If I see him, that'd be good. But yes, I'm so excited for that trip. I don't know why. It's just everything that represents Oak Bluff, I would just want to experience. And I would say, what's the next question?
Well, hold on. So, how many states have you gone to?
I would say over probably 20.
Okay. Are they all Midwest, or did you go to the coasts?
Midwest, East Coast. I love the East Coast.
You love the East Coast.
I've been to California, but I have not traveled that little part of Montana. I really want to go to Idaho. I'm not sure why, but
no, it looks great. Oh, I went for my doctorate. I went to Glacial National Park in Montana, and it is just breathtaking. And then I went to Seattle. I flew in to go to a buddy's house because we drove there. But what they don't tell you is the sun, it gets up at 4. The sun rises at 4, and you got to have, wherever you stay, if you're going on the West Coast, they got to have good blinds.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise you will you'll be up for all day.
Yeah. I'm just a city girl that want to do outdoorsy things.
Okay.
So I'm how do I get to? And I'm trying to convince all my cousins we should go here. They're is there a mall?
Coeur d'Alene's supposed to be really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, Idaho. Okay. So you want to travel? That's something that's kind of something going well in your life.
Yes.
Okay. What's the concern you hold? And be as candid as you can.
I would say, even though I'm very much, I call myself an international citizen. I love traveling, but with today's climate, sometimes I feel it's not as as exciting when it comes to everything that's going on in the turmoil of our country. So sometimes I feel I haven't really posted recently. I do a lot of posting around different mini adventures or places I've went to.
Yeah.
But that has slowed down. I'm trying to figure out, why is that? I think it's just a concern of, community being ripped apart, or
our nation is being ripped apart. Something I say from the pulpit often is the same spirit that killed Jesus is the same spirit that is actively harming our black and brown brothers and sisters. And it's the spirit of people who are completely loyal to an empire without concern for humanity. And it makes it really difficult to navigate. It makes it difficult to pastor. It makes it difficult to lead in these days.
Yes.
And not only that, you're scared. People are actively scared for what's going to happen to them. So, yeah, that's a concern I think many of us hold in this world today. So, what are you curious about?
Look, I am curious about. That's a good question.
Okay. Have you been to the new coffee shop in town?
Which one?
I don't know. Zach Adams was posting all about it. Somewhere downtown.
Well, no, I haven't been there, but
Okay.
I'm kind of curious about I would say I'm trying to buy a home this year.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just curious about what that process and like moving and what that house would, how my life would kind of change after that in a way of
Oh,
being a first
yeah.
time home buyer. But also I'm curious about, I am curious about downtown. But
That's a big thread on this podcast.
really,
Oh, 100%.
yes, I mean, I do these things called mini adventures where I do go out and I
Okay.
check out a new coffee shop or a
Yeah.
new place and just have myself a good time. That's how I find my relax and not kind of like going to like that shopaholic thing,
Yeah.
but more of a, okay, let me just check this out, be a, supporter of whatever's coming up. So I am curious about downtown because I know that there's several places that has been renovated or,
Yeah.
place have closed, so I'm curious about the next step of that.
Oh, I'm curious about the next chapter because we're not flourishing as a downtown. I mean, we have one grocery store and 15 liquor stores because we're not nurturing flourishing of people downtown. And so it's a very unique situation. So
I agree.
yeah. And you know what I learned about Springfield in general is we have more slot machines
Oh goodness.
than Cook County. And I think that
No.
point, yeah. Not even per capita. I mean, just more in general. We have more slot machines here in Sangamon County than all of Cook County.
I'm surprised I don't see none at Walgreens. Like, go and get.
Well,
go
you
and
don't
get
have to
your
drive far.
medicine.
They're like
Get your
everywhere.
medicine and also like, but it's very common and
Yeah.
it's surprising. And I think that was one of the things I did see when I came here.
Yeah.
Is that I witnessed that there is a lot of slot machines, but then I love the local food. So that was two things I witnessed when I came to Springfield: the amount of slot machines that you've mentioned, and the localness of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, come in. Thank you for playing the game. I give you an A+ on it. You won.
Okay, thank you.
So you are the executive director for the Faith Coalition of the Common Good. Talk to us about how that program got started, how you got in that role, and what's your stated goal for this?
Okay.
Yeah.
How it got started, our former, founder of Faith Coalition, Shelley Heidemann, she came back from our week-long training. That is Gamaliel. So we get our training from Gamaliel National Network.
Okay.
And so after going through week-long, which is intense leadership training, all about yourself and what you bring to community, but how it relates back to your story, she decided to come in, started a not-for-profit in Springfield, and this will be around community organizing because if anybody knows, we don't have a lot of community organizing in comparison to Chicago or anywhere else. So that was her step of saying, okay, let's gather some, and it's faith-based. So let's gather.
Why do you think that is? Because I felt that too. I felt very, everybody's doing their own thing, and there might be some little glimpses of people coming together, but it's very spread out. Is that like a regional thing? What you've been working in this?
Regional thing as to Chicago and
Or just the Midwest work ethic, or I don't know.
yes, and I think that it also depends on the local government of it all. And so in Chicago, you have ways that they do things when it comes to organizing. And I would say like their housing equity and their housing rights for renters is just amazing compared to Springfield. And so, or in Springfield, the way they support their local businesses can be different from places that have a lot of franchise restaurants. So I think a lot of it deals with the community that we're in and how we do business, as well as like just a culture of in Springfield. It's very, when I came here, I was like, oh my goodness, coming from Rock Island, Illinois.
Yeah, yeah.
I had one high school and we had over 10 ethnic communities in that high school. And so when I came to Springfield, I was like, oh, it's not as diverse as,
Yeah.
and so I think a lot of that plays within how much we learn from one another and how the Midwest operates in itself.
Yeah, yeah. I think you probably hit the nail on the head on that one. So tell me more about the Faith Coalition for the Common Good.
So she came back. She gathered about 10 different churches to just start Faith Coalition, predominantly black churches. And when they and also like the Dominican sisters and so many others. And their first issue was the railroad project. A railroad was coming into the east side of Springfield, and they were like, okay, how does this benefit the community when it comes to purchasing these houses and environmental justice issues? And so they worked on jobs. So how many jobs are going to go to the minority community when this railroad is built? And so that was the first issue. And from there on, we just continued to work at it. I didn't know anything about community organizing, but I had the desire to do something for my community. I always admired those who took their gifts and used it for a public platform for justice. So Nina Simone or Billie Holiday or any of those that said, okay, I'm going to use this gift that I was given and do something with it. That's outside of like monetary value. And so I came in 2020 during the COVID.
Oh, so you came in 2020.
Yes, they called me a COVID organizer because all of my one-to-ones was done via Zoom. And so that was but it checked everything that I had prayed for. It's how I wanted to do something. I was interning with the state, and I was like, this is not, as grassroots. I wanted to be grassroots. I wanted to use my faith to be active in the work that I was doing. And okay, here's Faith Coalition and so many other things. So, and I wanted to deal with policies because I had this overall question within myself that said, like, why is my community suffering? Why is my community going through? And I feel like nothing is really moving. From Chicago to Rock Island, I felt that way. And I was like, policy. I need to be able to change policy in a way that, and implement it in a way that it helps my community back home and here in Springfield. So that's where that question was answered through Faith Coalition. And 3 years later, I became the executive director.
Well, that certainly plays on your undergraduate degree because you got a sociology degree, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so even as you were talking about that, I could hear your concern for people in the midst, like in the background of it. It was like, how does this affect people? I do have actually a follow-up question is, what would be the common good? Like, it's Faith Coalition for the Common Good. How do you define common good?
The common good is where we all can meet, and it's so many things that can divide us.
Yeah.
But when we talk about access to healthcare, we talk about, a livable home, when we talk about, breathable air, it's hard to, disagree on if we are able to breathe quality air or not. And so it's the common good of one community saying, like, that's something that we can get and work at together.
Okay. Another question I thought about as I was thinking in your role of you are the director, you are bringing in all these different coalitions of faith communities, right? Here would be my question is, what's the balance between being prophetic and being someone who is trying to unite people? Because I think behind your organization, you are taking public stances on things. I don't find them controversial. Some might find them controversial. So what is that balance between being prophetic and being a uniter?
I think being prophetic comes with controversial. It's a controversial thing of, really going into a community and saying and prophesying, like, okay, this is what needs to happen, or how do I work this? So I went to Cuba.
Okay.
And I did a study abroad there, and it was at an MLK. I'm not sure it was where we were staying, but it was in dedication to Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
And they called him a prophet.
Okay.
And they were saying like the prophet MLK, and
they were saying the prophet.
Yes.
It's not the prophetic voice. That the prophet.
He was a prophet.
Interesting.
And so I was like, And when I think about it, to have that dream and to want it to come into fruition, they said that dream was a prophetic calling. That dream was a prophetic. So when I think about the work that we're doing here, when we declare things in our communities, that is prophetic in nature. And I didn't get the rest of. And then how does it relate to controversial?
Well, just that, you know, when you are prophetic, you usually are. You look at all the prophets of in the Old Testament; they were speaking out to power. I mean, beyond the question is like, does that take a toll on your soul
It
to do
does.
that for a long time? I mean, you know that been doing it what now, 6 years,
Well,
2026,
really,
2020.
yeah, 6 years in the public, but
Yeah.
all my life
Okay.
I've been like that child that was like, why is she, speaking out towards so and so, or why are you questioning this? So I've
You've always
always
had
been
that.
that, but yes, it does, and I think that being an organizer, we have to be mindful of, taking that time away to still away
Yeah.
and to pray and to do whatever is needed to gain back that strength because it can be difficult to 20 12 hours of your day you're
Yeah.
organizing, you're talking about issues every hour,
Yeah.
and then to go back home and possibly be an organizer that is also impacted by immigration, or an organizer also impacted by redlining, and having to talk about that at your dinner table. So it can be easily consuming to where how can I find those those places where I can still away and
Yeah.
find that energy.
Yeah, as this next chapter of my life has unfolded and probably been more vocal, I used to have this idea that the pulpit should be neutral. And it's like, oh, it's just gonna preach God's word. That's how I grew up. Really, once 2020 hit, it was like, no, like that I don't think the pulpit should be a neutral spot because faith shapes everything, including the way we see our politics. And
Yes.
now I don't endorse politicians and I don't endorse parties, but yeah, there are just things that it would be disingenuous for me to stand behind the pulpit and not address some of these things. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of people, maybe my colleagues, we grew up like that, and so it's this unlearning of what the pulpit could and should be, and it's tough.
I was just speaking about that when it comes to what the congregation is dealing with outside of the four walls of the church.
Yeah,
And it definitely can spill into, the church itself, like hunger and, not having a place to sleep. And so if like half of your congregation is on, government assistance,
yeah,
what does that look like in a climate where government assistance is being taken away right now?
right,
And if they're not able to find adequate housing, or maybe their building was just sold or
yeah,
marked as condemned, that takes a toll on one's soul, and I think it also meets the message of that day.
absolutely,
And I think as clergy, you all
yeah,
can sense that, okay, this is a message because this is what the congregation is dealing with at this moment.
sure, oh yeah.
And that is it. Yeah.
I'll never forget. I was in some cohort with some pastors when 2020 hit, and I sent out a text. I said, "Hey, should we talk about the coronavirus?" This was like maybe in February before it really descended, and there was like a tsunami of emotions. You could feel it coming, and I was like, "Should we talk about it?" And I left this cohort, but I'll never forget. They were like, "No, no, no, you don't need to talk about it. Just move on. It'll be fine." And I was like, there's just this notion, probably in the white pulpits, that just to not talk about the big events that are in our world. And there's probably a lot of harm that has come from that. But what I want to come back to is you are the guest, so you don't need my own inner workings of what's happening in my life.
That's the organizer. I'm like, but
I know. You somehow you just interviewed me. Okay. Here's what I would say. I want to ask is, what do you have going on in the Faith Coalition for the Common Good 2026? What you working on?
Awesome. Okay, what are we working on? Several things.
Okay.
So we have different task forces. We've been working on this housing equity campaign for about 2 years. It came from the Lift the Ban Coalition. It was a statewide initiative to have rent control in the state of Illinois, which we do not have. And so when we were canvassing, a few of our organizers and leaders was canvassing, they found that, hey, yes, our rent is going up, but look at our houses. Our houses have holes in our floors.
Yes, they do.
And that's when the Lift the Ban, our campaign is still Lift the Ban, but also we added housing equity being a landlord licensing and registration program. How do we, check our housing stock within Springfield for our renters and make sure
Yeah.
they're living in affordable and also safe housing. So hopefully we're really hoping that this can get on the ballot for November 2026 election, where we have the question, should Springfield, have a housing and registration inspection program? And then in our education task force has a student absenteeism campaign that we're partnering with District 186 to identify why isn't our students coming to school, why is it at such a high rate of students not attending or taking half a days. And so working with our community members to identify that with the parents, the teachers, the students, and seeing how do we get our students back in school and what is those determining factors. The data center within communities. Like I said, it's so many things.
There's
and
a lot,
also protecting our pre-trial fairness. It was through the Safety Act, and we were like, how do we protect, no cash bail bonds when it's being threatened by federal government? And if I can name a few, those are the things that.
Name a few. That's a lot. Those are weighty as well. Do y'all have like lawyers on staff and grant writers, or?
We're organizers, pretty much the grant writers.
Okay.
We do have leaders that have.
So you know how to do grant writing?
Yes.
Do you? Wow.
Yes. It was learned. It was definitely learning.
Okay.
And then.
Does AI help in that?
Yes, it does.
Does it? Okay.
Can you proofread this for me?
Listen here.
Not so much as the concepts, but
I don't think I'd have a job if computers and AI did not proofread and like kind of like check all my spelling and grammatical.
Yes.
Oh man, grammar. See, I can't even say it. I can't even say it correctly.
I didn't say anything, but yes, that was something that grant writing. We would like to have more legal staff on State Coalition, or even just leaders that wants to do pro bono and check some of our work or anything like that and say how we need to move in that. So yes.
Is this a lot of the stuff Obama did when he was an organizer, community organizer?
Look, he came in after me, but I would say he did a lot of trainings. That's what I heard from like our Gamaliel.
Okay.
He's a Gamaliel organizer in Chicago, so a lot of that came with like the trainings as well as the one-to-ones, and he used a lot of those organizing tactics and methods to run for Senate.
Okay.
And I believe even within his presidency, he possibly used that agitational methods and
what method?
Agitational, like agitations, where you hold a mirror up to like, so you have a leader and say they wanted to do something in the community that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
But their attitudes and their behavior isn't isn't really displaying that, and so you hold that mirror and say, hey, you said you wanted to do this,
but
this is what I'm seeing, that you're shying away from that conversations, or you're acting like we use like visionary terms for people to understand. You're acting like a superhero stepping on their own cape. And I said, we say, what would you need to change that behavior to really work at what you want to do in community?
Yeah.
And either accept, like, yeah, I am acting like a superhero stepping on their own cape, and this is what I need to do. Or like, yeah, I don't know. So these are some methods that we use as Gamaliel organizers to hold up that mirror and say, like, this is how I see you in the work, but this is where you say you want to go. And
that's a powerful principle. Do you use that in your own organization?
Yes. Some people are not like into it.
Everybody wants to look out a window, not a mirror.
Yes, but I believe that agitation is a gift that someone in your corner can really talk about, like where you are, but also be invested enough to tell
That's truth.
tell
That's
you what's
truth.
going on or what they see. And so if you have the right person that's able to,
The wrong person doing that can just be detrimental to
Yes.
your psyche, to the relationship, to the
Yes.
organization. Ooh, man. You know what's interesting? As I've watched you, we went to this Minneapolis in response, standing in the gap on Friday. This is in January. So it's Friday the 29th, I believe. You didn't speak at all. And I've watched videos of you, and you have this very prophetic voice. Even
Really?
here, yeah, I think it was like about human trafficking at UIS, and then you talked about dance at UIS, these videos. And it was like very strong, very, very powerful voice. And I was surprised you didn't speak at all at the event.
as organizers, we're trained to train our
Okay.
leaders, like train
Okay.
them in to provide that platform for our leaders to come on to and to exercise their values.
Okay.
So it's more of us playing in the background of, making sure that we have everything aligned to from the venue to the script to the agenda, but we all do this in teamwork.
Okay.
But as organizers, we don't really take a space for, having our voice heard on that platform.
Yeah.
But so that's why I'm usually in the background. And
I noticed that. That was
it's
kind
like
of
comfortable to me as well. So
Why?
because I don't know, I just don't really speak that often. But in the training room, that's where
you come alive.
yes.
Interesting. But your job requires probably so much of you or your organization to speak in front of people, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Did you know that about yourself
That I
when you
didn't
took the
really
job?
I didn't like speaking.
Yeah.
Or I'd rather not. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Before I got into sociology, I wanted to be a medical examiner, and I'm like, you don't really get to speak to no one.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to be by yourself in a job,
Yes.
like, but train people. But you would be fine going to not cubicle, but going to an office and just kind of being in the office.
somewhat, 'cause I'm
Somewhat.
a what they say, not
Omnivert.
omnivert. So I
ambivert.
can really, flourish.
You
in
like both,
spaces
yeah.
That, so that space I can definitely flourish in. But being in the background, being able to find out, like, okay, well, who
Yeah.
moves next? That's just
Yeah.
something I have joy in.
It is good leadership to be able to promote other people. If you have to be the center of it all, that organization's not going to last the test of time. It just isn't, because if you have to be the center of it, you need.
Can I say, like,
Yeah.
yuck? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to say, like, yuck. So being able to have that space where people can really exercise because some people really want to be able to utilize their voice. And
Yeah.
I can speak, and if I need to, I will. But being able to move out the way for others to gain that skill is...
So as your work with the coalition, do you have to have a pretty good, how do you push people away who want to use it as a platform, to use you as your platform, and rather like something that's not going with your agenda for the organization and just theirs? Because I'd imagine there's probably a lot of that.
It is, sadly. And I would say we talk about the word of self-interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And self-interest being, how does my experience relate to your experience where we can work together? And it's very much like not a level, but not a matrix either. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum as to where selfish is and where selflessness is. And right in the middle is where you find that self-interest. Where my interests meet yours and we can work together.
That's
and when
a good
you
word.
sign, it's a point where you like, it's just being selfish where I don't see the person's interest and I see that beyond theirs.
Yeah.
And so when I see that, it's more of like, how does it relate back to us? How does it relate back to the mission?
Yeah.
How does it relate back to our, task force?
Yeah.
And so we always have to have some lining to the full organization as itself. And they're not dismissing their experience and where they would like to go within their path, but also acknowledging that you have a team here that also has desires and also wants things done for the common good.
For the common good.
It's a self-interest thing. Yeah.
Yeah. In politics, there's a lot of self-interest. And so I imagine since you are working with policy and working with a lot of self-interest in churches too, I would imagine. So, that's an interesting nuance I had not thought about with your job. Before we get you out of here, you at UIS were on the dance team.
Oh goodness, yes.
Are you still dancing today?
Not as much.
It's praise dancing, right?
Praise dancing.
Yes, I want to be clarifying it.
I did Afrobeat dancing, so like Afrobeat was one of them, but praise dancing I don't do as much. I want to get back into it. I was trying to find a rhythm to
See, I can't find that rhythm. I was up on stage and I was trying to clap. And Tiffany, we joke about that, but she goes, no, because I was messing up the beat big time. I cannot find that beat. I just can't do it.
Praise dancing, there's a beat there, but it's really,
for my doctoral experience, we had this lady come in and it was really interesting because she said to like 20 pastors. Most of them are from the Midwest. All of us were white. I'm half Hispanic. The other guy was half Filipino, but it was majority white pastors. And she said, we're going to dance. And we're going to dance for about 15 minutes and let your body move. And like,
oh my goodness.
Now to watch some of these pastors hands in the pocket. And so I was trying to dance and if I had a video of that, I would delete it as fast as I could. No. Yes. But you know what? There's something about dancing and feeling the movements of your body that, like, in the right space can be healing, but it's also freeing, and it opens you up to this move of God, like the presence of God.
Yes. Pastor Tony, I actually we did spiritual practices at our organized retreat, and they went up to me like, well, can you do a spiritual practice in 2 days? And I had them dance.
Wait, what organization was this?
Wigamelia. So all of our organizers got together in Nashville, and during the beginning of the day, we do spiritual practices. Yeah. At the end of the day, we do a spiritual practice. So it was my day, and I'm like, we're going to dance today. And you can see the face in the room. Oh,
it's a fear. Like, it's a fear.
And then I said, this is a picture of crumping. And they were like, we're not crumping today. Like... But it was so hilarious. But we were able to, we put on the song Glory by John Legend. Okay. And we just, from the feet up to your hands and the real message was, we do this work. And sometimes we do it just out of busyness and, not really thinking about how our body feels. Yeah. And it was connecting our body back to the work. And so... it's definitely spiritual. It's definitely
I believe
healing.
It is. I believe in the right context it can be.
Yeah. So it was more something. We're just like, what?
What do you think dance teaches us about God? Because you've been in dance for a lot of years, right? And at UIS especially, you really, you led several organizations on it. So what do you think it teaches us about the nature of God?
That's a good question. I believe when I think about dance, I think about the presence.
Being present in the moment?
Yes, the present in the moment with God, as well as Him being there watching me.
Oh, gosh, I hadn't even thought about God watching me dance. I don't think... I don't think I want to pull at that thread too much.
But also what it teaches us about ourselves is that by my hands, all things being, blessing God, being a, worship from the tapping of my feet. Yeah. That's a worship. To, the swing of my arms, that's a worship. So using my whole being to worship.
I like that. Using my whole being to worship. That's really good. I think that's a good way to but I do want to ask one question I've been asking just the people that have sat in the chair for this first season. I don't know what we call it. 10 years ago, what were you defining success as? Today, what are you defining success as?
I gotta remember where I was at 10 years ago. Was I?
The last chapter of your life,
I would
years
say I
ago.
was defining success as graduating, as finding a job. And so it was more of that was markers of success.
Yeah.
And I would say success now would be it'd be more of like the impact.
The change in people's life.
Yes, it would be more of those lasting impacts that I can have, or make.
What would you say success is for Faith for the Coalition for the Common Good?
I would say the lasting impact to change the culture.
Okay.
Culture of organizing, culture of our justice system. That when other people come into the courtroom or when people come into the training spaces, they feel different than before, such as, they don't feel as tense. They know that possibly the justice system would do them right this time. And so the difference of those interactions, I would say, would be a success.
You didn't come here to preach, but you just preached a word.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you for dropping by.
Thank you for having me.
High five. You did great. Thank
you.
you.